Hi, this is Colin Hung with HitMic, and welcome to another interview that we're doing. This time I'm sitting down with Brian Davis, Executive Vice President at Scorpion Healthcare. Brian, thanks for sitting down with me today.
Hey, it's a pleasure, Colin. Appreciate you so much. Thanks for the invite.
Now, you and I bumped into each other at the virtual SHUSHMED conference that happened not too long ago, and that's kind of how we restarted our conversations. And, usually when I meet up with you, you and I are standing around talking for like a couple hours, so this will be fun.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan, man. You guys do great work over there. Great journalism, great reporting, great insights. So we're a big fan of you guys at our house.
Well, thank you for saying that, Brian. Thank you. So why don't we just dive in? Let's talk a little bit about obviously the pandemic and COVID. Given your business and given what you do, what were some of the things that COVID exposed for you guys or uncovered for you guys?
Well, I mean, we work with just over 320 some odd hospitals, healthcare systems across the country, thousands of other clients and other verticals. But across our hospital population, if you will, obviously, whenever we were heading towards this thing that we didn't really know what was going to happen, we started to prepare and gear up. But then, the national emergency was declared, and 3 days later, after the president declared the national emergency, what we saw in aggregate across all of our clients was all of our hospital clients was the most internet traffic we had ever seen to them at once over 48, 72-hour period.
Sure.
And so, I mean, that goes back a long time. We've been doing this for a really long time, more than 15 years. And so when we saw that, it was just like, whoa, what's going on? And all of us, right? We were just trying to work with clients. We weren't really thinking about it at the time, but in hindsight, we started to look at why was that? And one of the things we realized is that, if we go back to where we all were at that point, where there's all this fear and the plague is coming and there's mass media and it is chaos and it is nothing but fear city on every channel, no matter where you're at. But what people did was they said, okay, I've got all of this chaos coming at me at once, but who can give me local context and meaning about what it means to me? And people turn to their local providers, local hospitals. In a way that's different than their normal, I broke my arm, I've got a health problem. I wasn't looking to my healthcare provider to solve my problem. I was looking to my healthcare provider for leadership. And that was one of the, and that played out in the analytics. We saw that happening. And so I think one of the things that got exposed, and I think COVID, if it did anything or if it's doing anything, it's exposing a lot of things. It's exposing organizations that were ready, organizations that were not ready, leadership that was ready, leadership that wasn't ready across, business and healthcare and everything. But it became an opportunity for organizations to connect with their local community in a different way.
Gotcha.
And then the twist on it is it was all happening digitally because there was no other option. And so it was just this all of a sudden the importance of the hospital's web presence became really high.
Well, you were talking about that before, about saying that there was this shift because you were saying hospitals, and other healthcare providers used to think about their front door literally as their front door, but now because their front door was potentially closed and some had to be shuttered or not accept certain types of patients, now they had to think about their front door digitally, and that was a real shift for a lot of healthcare organizations.
Yeah, exactly. I actually, to that point, I had a hospital CEO say that, like we were in a conversation, and he said, if there's anything that's true right now, it's that our digital front door is just our front door. Is now just our front door. And if you think about it, I mean, that's right. It is this is the front door.
Right.
And so that led to a conversation of, if that's true, then how do we treat it with the same level of intensity, intent, and respect that we would our real front door? And so it led to us working with a lot of clients. I mean, we obviously got real tactical in terms of helping people launch things and pull back things and turn things back on and off. And then we actually did one project that we did as kind of a community service. Was we actually realized there was still a lot. We were able to help all our clients, and then we realized that many people we were talking to, the reason they were talking to us is they already needed help, but people we were talking to were running into problems where they were not able to react quick enough digitally.
Okay.
So our team built what we call the COVID-19 Community Communications Hub, which was basically this microsite that allowed you to put your information, had the symptom checker, had all these things. And we started just rolling it out for free to anybody that needed it. There was a lot of rural hospitals, a lot of smaller market hospitals. We rolled out about 25 of them in about 20 days, just to help, right? I mean, just to help these folks. But it was an incredible level of intensity that, I mean, none of us have experienced before. But it definitely has brought to the forefront that you must have your digital front door, your front door on point.
There's no more distinction, right? Your physical and your online presence. It's all about your online. It's all about your presence, period.
Yeah.
And for those that were caught a little flat-footed without the digital side, I think they quickly had to ramp up in those few months there at the March, April, May.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, we talked that, you and I bumped into each other at SHSMD. You did a presentation there. It was really centered around the need for principles to guide your marketing strategy. Can you maybe expand on that for us?
Yeah. And I think that was one of the common denominators of the organizations that were moving the quickest, at least relative to our clients, is we all have, especially at hospitals and healthcare organizations, very mission driven. I mean, that's just the way we think. Mm-hmm. We have our mission, vision, values for our organization. But what we found over the years is that whenever it comes to, there's the marketing function at the organization. And then within that, there's maybe the digital component of that. There used to be more separate. Now they're really integrated. It's all one thing. But in terms of our marketing, how do we operate? And what we found is that there really aren't often organizations within the organization that say, these are the principles with which we're going to operate relative to our digital presence, for example. We have our mission, vision, values, but they're not applied in terms of the way we think about or we plan for our digital marketing. So, especially with some of our larger clients that have had really complex both business and technical challenges, mm-hmm. Political challenges internally. The question, I mean, we all know that one of the biggest threats to any big project or digital transformation is not so much the technology as it is the political and consensus alignment.
Sure.
And so what we experienced and worked through, and we've got a process that we work through with our clients on this, is the first thing you have to do is make sure you're clear on your principles of how you're going to operate your digital presence. Like, what are the principles of your digital presence? That's what the workshop at SHSMD was about. We actually did a survey at the SHSMD workshop, and we said, "Hey, do you have principles?" And everybody kind of said they did. And I said, "Well, are they written down? Are they clearly communicated? Have they been thoughtfully explained? Have they been shared with everybody? Have they been presented to the rest of the organization?" And then once people looked at it through that, they said, "Well, actually, we don't really have principles." I said, so the power of that, though, is that when these principles are articulated and written down, like and I had one client, RWJ Barnabas in New Jersey, they call it their digital constitution, where it's a set of principles that say we're going to look at every decision through this. And they're simple things, but it allows them to be objective about the way they think about things. It's not me versus you or his opinion versus her opinion. It's just a matter of, is it in or out of alignment with the principles? And these are simple things. I mean, I'll just give you a couple examples.
Sure.
Put the patient first. It's simple, right? But not always easy. We lose sight of that if we don't have that written down somewhere. So we might make a decision with our website or digital strategy that forgets that it's for the patient, right? We value simplicity over complexity. So is the thing we're going to do going to make the experience more complex or less complex? More simple, less simple. I have one from another client, OU Health, which just launched. One of their core principles is it's our duty to broadcast, meaning it's our duty to take the great clinical work that we're doing here and bring that to the population in a way that they can understand the meaning behind it, but always keep that going because there may be some value that could save somebody's life. Or finally, one of them was, we'll seek to meet the patient at the intersection of need and access. And that's from my friend, I'll give her a shout out, Jennifer Schultz at OU. She's the senior vice president over there. That's hers. I'm stealing. I told her I always give her credit if I said it. But that means is that basically, no different than when we put our clinics in the right neighborhoods and we're there from an access perspective in our market, we're also going to be there whenever people need us and they need access. When they look, they're going to find. And so we ask ourselves the question if we're doing that. So we write those principles down, but here's the magic thing that happens. And I've seen this numerous times, is that when these principles are when you do the work to develop the principles and then start to share them and not get out of the process of selling the project and sell the principles to the rest of the organization, I've seen consensus aggregate, people move faster, they don't disagree, it cuts through the politics, and it's a very powerful device. So that's something we've seen. Hopefully it'll be a trend based on the workshop. Hopefully more people will start doing this. But with our big clients that have had really complex things, that's been one of the big powerful things. And then when COVID hit, it helped them know what to do and what not to do.
I really like that whole concept of an internal digital constitution, right? These are a set of guiding principles that when things hit the fan and when things are a little intense, you can go back to this and go, hey, are we remembering that, this is for the patient? It should be easier, not harder. You're not putting extra steps in the way just because it's expedient. You're actually thinking it through. Those are hard things to remember when you're in the heat of the moment and trying to get something out the door.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Carol Konechny Grant, who is my co-presenter, she's the vice president at Regional Medical Center in Orangeburg, South Carolina. She's been a SHMID member for many years, board member. She's amazing. I call her the chess master. She's like, if you would never want to compete. She's amazing. But she said straight up, she said that, COVID hit and people stopped thinking. I mean, there's a thing where people just stop thinking. And so, if the rule says this, I must do this, and they're not really thinking, but a principle gives you the space to go, relative to this, I'm going to do what's right for the patient. And so anyway, this plays out over and over again, but again, it's great to have it for the organizational level, but what we would say is that it's a game changer whenever you are able to deploy this, especially around your digital world, because we know many times other senior executives, C-level, they might not be thinking about this all the time. Your CFO isn't thinking about this, but whenever you're able to come to him and say, these are the principles that are governing the way we think, it can be very powerful.
I'm going to change gears on you, Brian, because I want to ask you a question about a discussion you and I were having before we got on air here. And that was this. Is Amazon the right barometer for healthcare to be using as a comparison for their digital presence? Or is that just is it flawed to be comparing yourself to Amazon?
Okay. So how much distribution, can we get this out to the world? Because I've seen this quite a bit. The easy answer for people to do is say, I want to be like Amazon. There's been this injection of personalization and consumerization the consumerization of healthcare. Consumerism is king. And as a result, okay, then there's all this. Well, then what do consumers want? Well, they want personalized experiences. Like what? Like Amazon. Okay, so then we need to be like Amazon. No, I'm telling the listeners and everyone, no. as much as the marketing may tell you, because and this is something that's in healthcare marketers' minds, because I see it in RFPs, I see it in proposal, I see it out there, and people do presentations about it. We compare to Amazon. We must have this personalized experience. Here's what I tell you: for consumers, yes, the personalized patient experience is, for the organization that can do that and execute that well, is a game changer, right? That's everything from when I call, to the ability to schedule, to the emails that I get and the reminders, and I get a text. I mean, here in Dallas, Mint Dentistry, I just went to them yesterday, and they send you a text to remind you of your appointment, and, oh yeah, you can come in early, click right here. It is personalized. That was a personalized, amazing experience. That's why they're winning. And that's what, from a personalization perspective, it's all of that experience. But in many cases, over the last several years, what we've seen is that people have gotten fixated to say, well, we need for example, our website to be this personalized Amazon experience. And they've spent, in many cases, millions of dollars to try to make that happen. But what I would say, and our position would be, there's a problem, is that there's Amazon, Best Buy, Target, these are brands that we're interacting with on a weekly, daily, or in the case of Amazon, in my house, hourly basis, it seems like. I've got a shipping dock on the front porch. It's hourly. It's a constant, ongoing communication and relationship, and it is super personalized. And Amazon is Amazon because of that reason. But there's a problem when it comes to healthcare organizations. We don't visit that often. I'm not on a hospital's website for any other reason to solve a problem, or in the case of COVID, to get information about context and meaning about something in my neighborhood. And because of that, on a technical level, you don't have enough data to actually personalize anything, because I'm not coming back often enough. And what I come to your website for today, my broken leg, could be decidedly different in 6 months. And so you can't predict what I need, and nor should you. In fact, I think I had one senior executive at a hospital say, how dare we presume to know what the patient needs before we've talked to them? So in other words, you've come to my website and you visited the maternity section, but you came back, to show them content about maternity. That's not what I'm coming back for. I'm coming back for my cancer issues with my father or something, right? So you're not doing anybody a service in that. So personalization and furthermore, nobody's actually pulled this off. And I've actually had one of our chief designers says, this idea about personalization with the website for this type of, in this industry, is an excuse for lazy design. Great design will do the work contextually in that visit, right? I'm coming for this, the web experience, also the digital advertising that goes along with that, the search ads, the landing pages, all of that is the personalization experience. I searched for this, I found this, I came to the right page on the website, the SEO was right. Frankly, Google is kind of the personalization engine. And so,
so what you're saying is,
that's a long version.
No, I like it. What you're saying to me is that, Amazon is a great company. It does what it does very well, but you are comparing an apple to an orange, right? Because they have a transaction volume and a relationship with these individuals, with us, that is much more frequent than I ever hope I have an interaction with a healthcare provider. Right?
Yeah.
And for that alone, you don't have enough data to which to build or anticipate my need, right? You may think that I'm, coming for, maybe a colonoscopy because I should be due for it, and that's maybe what you show me. But in actual fact, I'm coming because something's happened with my son or my daughter or something like that. And so, your personalization is going to be off. Your predictability is off. Amazon can get away with it because they, we're interacting with them so much more frequently. They probably know what we need before we need it. You
just bought the shoes, so I'm going to show you the socks, right? It's that simple. Now, I am seeing great organizations do things with personalization on, emails, and when they've got the CRM in place and they can send things and they're triggering that. very sophisticated. Most organizations aren't there. I mean, there's a few. Ochsner's doing a great job of this stuff down in New Orleans. I've got to give it. That's where I'm originally from, Louisiana, so I got to give them a shout out. But and I saw they just did a great presentation at Shishman too. But in terms of that web experience, we've actually done studies that show that people will come to the website and then they'll come back again in about 30 days. Is kind of and then they kind of vanish.
Right.
In general, then there's. And we think that's maybe bill pay or some other things like that. But then there's in different service lines, it might be more often. But in general, it's I'm here when you need me, and then I'm out and I never visit again until I have another.
Right. So this isn't an excuse not to have good design. What we're saying is that you don't need to be Amazon. Maybe that's not the right barometer. You need to, get the person the information, navigate them to the right place quickly, easily, simply. So you still need that aspect of design, but you don't need to be building Amazon. You don't need to replicate what Amazon is.
And again, frankly, Google is the personalization engine, right? I type in what I want, and if your web experience, your ads, you should have a search, kind of an overarching SEM layer that's out there in your marketplace. Between your SEM layer and your website itself, and good SEO where they might come in right into the side door, that's really personalization, and that is personal. I mean, you're giving them exactly what they're looking for in the moment. So
let's talk about that. Like, let's go a little bit deeper on this whole consumerization thing, because that's something else that we've talked about around. There is this movement, consumer wave hitting healthcare. By now we, had COVID not happened, we should have all been now more in control of where we get our care and price transparency and all these things. And
yes.
And yet what you're saying is that although that is still happening and we are still on that road, the majority of the way that people go to healthcare organizations is still by the age-old referral networks.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the numbers, right? There is people are going to self-select, and they're going to look around for different treatments, and specific service lines are more apt to that. But when you get into some of the higher revenue, like cardiology, neurosurgery, some of these things, that's all happening through referral networks, right? So you're not going to launch a digital campaign to the consumer for liver transplants, right? That's not. I mean, you might create some awareness, some basic awareness, but don't expect to go get a bunch of conversions around that. I'm not saying everybody's doing that, but I've seen that.
Gotcha.
But there's if you looked at the revenue of a healthcare system, and it's the referral channel is the bulk of it, and then there's this other part of it that's self-referral, but and you need to play both games very well, and that's kind of our perspective. Is it's no longer good enough to just go after the consumer from a marketing perspective. You really need to see if there's levers you can pull on both sides of that, and that's what we're seeing some interesting things develop over the last 12 months.
We're getting close to the end of our time here, Brian. So let me ask this question of you. What's happening at Scorpion? What are you guys working on? What sort of the new things are happening at the company?
Well, again, we've continued to innovate. I mean, I think we had things that we were working on before COVID that COVID accelerated, just to the service of our clients in terms of platforms and capabilities with digital marketing. But again, back to this topic around kind of consumers versus the physician networks. One of the conversations we've had with some of our clients is how do we move the lever on that side with our physicians or with our physician networks in terms of aligning more of them to us and getting them to be aware and refer to us. And so we've been working on some really interesting technology, some amazing things that we're doing there in terms of really moving the physician business development function forward about 10 years, because let's face it, before COVID, primarily for the physician, but this is for the business development, physician relations, strategy folks. They're out there going to talk to doctors, connect with them, try not to waste their time, but at the same time get their attention and hopefully build a relationship. And the primary marketing channel was, I'm sending a rep to go see you, and they're going to maybe bring a brochure and some donuts. And
it's the old pharma rep methodology, right?
It's exactly the pharma rep methodology. And so we had some clients, some chief strategy officers say, like, there's got to be a better way, right? Then bring the brochure. Is there digital things we could do? And so the answer is yes. And so we've been developing some strategies around that conversation that we'll be releasing more. But let's just say that I had a chief marketing officer recently say, what we're doing here in terms of targeting, intel, the ability to deliver a very specific message to a very specific audience, and then have information that gives my business development people actionable intel. He said it's the future. He said it's the future of business development. He's like, anybody that's not got this is going to be, nobody's going to want to compete with me, is what he said on this. So it's basically saying, I mean, we and you cover a lot of this in the B2B world of just B2B healthcare marketing or B2B technology marketing. We've got some sophisticated things, right? We ABM, some of the things you talk about on your channel. There's a lot of sophisticated things you can do to target an account. We basically ask the question, what could you do to do that with physician networks? And we went out and grabbed some technology from a couple of adjacent industries, and we've done some cool things. So that strategy and connection with physician, we're looking to put a lever on the other side. We've got the consumer side, Google, digital, websites, all that, to the customers, to the marketplace, yes. But then the other lever is how do we get a competitive advantage for the strategy teams and the business development teams? And we've got an answer for that.
I'll look forward to hearing more about that then.
We'll do another interview.
Pretty interesting. Sounds really interesting. Well, listen, hey, I want to thank you for your time sitting down with me today. We covered a lot of different areas, which is pretty typical of a conversation between you and I, which I love. So, but thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today, Brian.
Yeah, Colin, appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Keep doing the good work out there, man. Love the content, and it's just a pleasure to be here with you today.
Awesome. This is Colin Hung with HitMake and Healthcare IT Today. Thanks for listening.